Have you ever wondered to yourself, why do the rich get richer while the poor struggle to make ends meet? One of the main reasons is because rich people spend their money on assets and not liabilities and expenses. And in today's video, we're gonna be talking about the 7 things that rich people buy that increase their wealth. So basically this breaks down into 3 parts, right? Rich people buy assets that actually increase their wealth, middle class people buy liabilities that they think are assets, and poor people spend their hard-earned money on expenses. And so right up front, I'm going to acknowledge that how I'm gonna classify these assets and businesses don't go directly in line with accounting. Trust me, I majored in accounting, and a long time ago, I actually was an accountant. So I understand what traditional definitions of assets and liabilities are, but I'm gonna talk about how rich people actually view their assets and view things that actually make them richer, because it's very important to understand this difference in mindset that rich people have relative to the middle class and to those who are poor. So let's kick it straight off with number 7, and we're gonna count down all the way to the number 1 most valuable asset that rich people have that other people generally don't. And number 7 is precious metal. So most of us have probably heard of gold, but we probably don't understand just how valuable it is to most rich people, because gold, before digital currency, cryptocurrency, physical dollars and things like that existed, literally was the currency for much of the world. And gold is still backed by our traditional currency. And rich people like to hold on to gold because throughout history, gold has been one of the most recession-proof assets that it's possible to own, which is why gold is a very important asset to actually include into your investment portfolio, and which is why many rich people do include that in order to diversify their real estate holdings and their stocks and bonds holdings, just because gold historically has always been a very safe investment relative to other investment strategies. The number 6 thing that rich people buy that the poor don't is education, right? And I don't mean necessarily college here. There's a lot of people who go into deep student loan debt and things like that, and they become poor, or they go from middle class to poor, or even rich to middle class because of these crazy college fees. But education and self-education is something that rich people buy all the time. Whether they're purchasing mentorship, whether they're attending self-education classes or seminars or networking events, rich people understand that they can get more out of their investment into education than the cost of the education itself. And this doesn't even necessarily only mean self-education. Rich people understand that it's worth it to pay for expertise. And what I mean by that is literally going and hiring the best tax preparation person or the best accountant, because those types of people might be expensive in the short term, but they're gonna save you, thousands, hundreds of thousands, or even millions of dollars over the long term if you actually are willing to pay a little bit more to find these experts, because it's not possible to be an expert in everything in life. So rich people understand that it's the best option often to actually go out and buy the best expertise to actually apply that to your own life, which is in the long run going to save you money. One of the biggest differences between poor people, middle class, and rich people is that rich people have a long-term mentality where they're thinking about the next 5 years, 10 years down the line. Number 5 is an audience, right? And this is a strange one that a lot of people don't really understand and can't conceptualize, but an audience is the new form of rich, right? Recently in the past, even like 30, 50, 100 years, how you actually became rich and became wealthy was by owning the most stuff, right? Owning the most land, owning the most buildings, owning the most real estate and things like that. But in today's day and age, the people who are rich are the people who have the most attention, reach, and audience, right? And what do I mean by that? I mean people who have subscribers on YouTube, followers on Instagram, people that they can reach with any type of offer that they're trying to sell, right? If they want to sell a t-shirt and they have an audience, they can send out, make a video, send an email, and hundreds of thousands or millions of people are going to see whatever they're trying to show them. And that is incredibly powerful. The new form of rich is people who have what's called attention currency. And attention currency is literally the most valuable thing that I personally have ever found. It's the only way that I've ever seen being able to click a button, clicking the send button, and watching tens of thousands of dollars flow into your bank account just from the click of a button, right? That is the new form of rich, and that is very exciting stuff. Understanding what it takes to build a personal brand and building an audience is a topic for another video, but that is something that rich people understand is worth buying, right? Buying attention with paid traffic, buying attention to actually build up your social media and followership so that down the line when you have something to sell to those people, you're able to do it. Number 4 is paper assets. And when I say paper assets, I mean things like stocks, bonds, mutual funds, index funds, things that you can actually invest into with your money that are going to generate you passive income without any additional effort on your part. And when it comes to these assets, some rich people actually prefer to buy assets that are going to generate you dividends, right? Actually pay you passively in income. And some rich people prefer to actually buy assets that have a high likelihood, in their opinion, of actually appreciating in value, right? Because if you had bought Amazon when it first IPO'd for $14 or whatever it is, now each share of Amazon is worth close to $2,000, which is a ridiculous return. And so if you pick the right stocks and you have some type of information that the general public doesn't have, or you have faith in the leaders of the company and the management and the systems and their competitive advantages, right? Those are the types of ways that rich people just leave their money in these high performing stocks and watch them just continue to grow. The number 3 thing that rich people like to buy that the poor and middle class don't is equity, right? And this can be either bought or actually created in a company that you actually found. But rich people understand that ownership is one of the most important things to actually accumulating wealth. And so it's why rich people are so careful giving away any percentage of the equity in a business or a patent or a copyright or an idea or something that can be licensed down the road or sold off as an asset itself. And so rich people understand that actually being the owner of a company or partnering with someone who's starting a company and assuming some equity percentage of that company is one of the most valuable things. The best way I can illustrate this is with someone named David Cho. And now David Cho actually was a graffiti artist who was hired to paint the campus of Facebook in 2005. And they asked him whether he'd like to be paid in cash or he'd rather be paid in equity, right? Or a percentage ownership of Facebook stock. And the offer that he actually gave was, if you want me to paint the entire building, I'll do it for $60,000. Or Facebook offered him a percentage of the actual ownership and the stock. So he basically had the decision of either getting $60,000 cash to actually paint the building and paint the campus, or a percentage ownership of the company and equity in Facebook. His decision to actually choose equity instead of the $60,000 up front ended up making him over $200 million. And so that is probably one of the more lucky scenarios in all of history when it comes to choosing cash or equity, but it's a perfect example of why equity is so important and why rich people actually always prefer to have ownership inside of companies. Number 2 is real estate. This is probably one of, if not the most popular asset classes for rich people, and most wealthy people either make the primary portion of their money from real estate or they park a lot of their extra excess money into real estate, whether it's revenue generating real estate like rental properties, or it's just buy and hold real estate like houses and things like that in nice neighborhoods inside of affluent cities. And with the introduction of Airbnb, now real estate holders actually have so many more options when it comes to making money with their real estate, right? Because you can buy and hold, you can buy and flip, you can actually rent it out with Airbnb, you can have long-term rentals, right? There's all these different options, but being able to actually afford the house to be able to rent it out is one of the best kind of income generation tools that rich people use that middle class and poor people don't. And if you're asking yourself, why do so many rich people own real estate? Well, one of the reasons is banks and lending institutions love real estate. They love the fact that it's physical, that it's a real thing, it's tangible, that you can actually tie down to the money, which is why they lend out so much money for people to actually buy and develop real estate. And because banks and these lending institutions love to lend money for real estate, that is one of the biggest reasons why rich people buy real estate. People have the assumption that rich people use all of their own money to do these things, but oftentimes they're using other people's money and they're borrowing cheap money to actually invest into assets that they, have a good idea are going to appreciate more than the interest to borrow that money actually costs. And that is when you really start to leverage the true power of other people's money to make you richer. And the number 1 thing that rich people buy that poor people and middle class people don't, we are gonna get to in just one second, but I do wanna give a shout out to Patrick Kogan, who said, "This is a great video, Kevin. Lots of useful tips. You're killing it and motivating me to do the same on my channel as well. Thanks." So shout out to you, Patrick. And if you wanna be our next comment winner and be featured on our next video, all you have to do is 2 things. Tap that little like button and then click on the red subscribe button and make sure you turn on notification bells, because we always choose our winner as part of the notification squad, people who comment in the first few minutes every time we launch a brand new video. So number 1, guys, the number 1 thing that rich people buy that poor people don't is businesses. Majority of of all wealthy people have made their money and continue to make their money through businesses that they actually create, right? It's impossible for the most part to become truly rich and financially free being unemployed. So you have to actually understand that rich people are always the ones who assume the risk and create the companies, and they're the ones who actually make the most money because they're doing the most work. And not everyone wants to take on all of that time and responsibility and risk and have to be responsible to paying all of their employees and things like that. But businesses are probably the #1 cash generation tool that wealthy people use. And again, equity and ownership of those businesses is really what catapults people into millionaire, multimillionaire, and even billionaire level, right? Most billionaires are billionaires because of their ownership of the companies that they take public. And when you create an automated business and something that's making you money even while you're sleeping, right, that allows you to accumulate wealth without directly exchanging your time for that money, right? That is what passive income is, and that is how rich people truly start to become rich. So if you want to learn more about passive income, what I recommend you do is check out this video right here, and we're going to talk about how to make $5,000 per month with YouTube, which is one of the most scalable ways to make passive income. So check it out right here, and we'll see you there. Social Blade is a cool website. You can see what anybody makes. What we're looking at right here is estimated monthly earnings. This says $6.7 thousand in estimated monthly earnings. This right here says, almost a little over 1.